back in September of this year, or last year, I went to Europa Park and I got to ride on Voltron Nevera, the park's brand new 2024 Mack Stryker Coaster. And this thing is more than insane. You've probably seen a few reviews already about this thing. I mean, people are going out there just to ride this, and I did too. And I will also be doing a Europa Park review in full later on down the line, probably in a couple of years, because my upload schedule is garbage. But I'm getting on top of that. I'm trying to fix it, hopefully. But this video is the Voltron review, and we'll kick straight off, and we'll talk about the area first, because this area, the whole Croatia themed area that they've built just for this ride, is very well done. It's very open, which is sort of the opposite of what everything else in Europa Park is. It's more like compact little streets and, you know, more themed building, and there is themed buildings in Croatia, but there's a large pathway in the middle with things sort of separating off from that. There's also a few viewing platforms in the area. There's one up on a little tower, and there's a few underneath the ride just for shots or nice little views. That was very cool. More rides need to do that, I think. You're going to a theme park to ride the rides, yes, but for the people who do videos on them, or just people who want to enjoy the look of a coaster, having pathways underneath or like viewing areas, great idea, and I did very well with this on Voltron, so I'd like to see that moving forward. Anyway, in the area you have a few buildings, and then one of them is Voltron itself. This houses the queue line and the big beyond vertical launch that you can see right ahead of you. Through this building you enter into the main queue line. You go off to the left and you have the single rider and the virtual queue, and then to the right you have the main queue. This queue then goes off outside, and it's actually fairly well themed for an outside queue. You've got some scaffolding around. It's been like 13. A lot better though. And as you're going through this queue, it's sort of a windy cattle pen. You then go underneath the brake run, and then you meander your way around into the inside queue, which is very cool. This is probably one of the best queues I've ever been in. Again, it's another big cattle pen. You've got a Nikola Tesla animatronic to the side of you. I'll explain more about the ride storyline later on in the video, but it's themed around Nikola Tesla and his experiment, the Voltron Nevera, which is transporting from one place to another place in the form of lightning. And speaking of which, when you're in the queue itself, if you look up to the left, you can see the train leaving the station and entering one of its secret elements, because the doors will close. A little sort of like, what are they called? It's not a vent. It's not Among Us. These doors sort of closed, and then the ride does its thing. The train is charging up, and then the doors open up again. The train's disappeared. It's actually launched, but the people in the queue don't know that. And just after this has happened, if you look up to the right side of the queue, you can actually see the doors opening again, and the train has appeared. This one's actually a video, not the actual train. But there's a few Easter eggs on it of the people who made the ride, which is quite cool. I like a good Easter egg. Nemesis has got quite a few, and I noticed a few with Voltron as well. So good things for enthusiasts to look for. You can see the Mack family on there. I can't remember the names. The people who did the construction series, Patrick and Lucas. I remember it now. But yeah, they're also on there. And then after you've been waiting, you then enter the locker area. You have to put all your stuff in a locker. They're free. You get a little card, like an NFC sort of chip card, and you scan it on the locker. Locker opens up. It's the same on Arthur, if you've done Arthur. You go into the lockers. They're double-sided, so once you come off the ride, you're on the other side, you can get your stuff back. Then you go up the stairs, and you're basically in the station. And for my first ever ride for this thing, being in that station was so exciting. You can see the trains continuously moving because it uses a conveyor belt loading platform. So the trains don't stop at all. Again, that is another thing. Operations at Europa Park. This queue never stops. You are constantly moving. I think every time we did it, it was about a 70-minute queue. It felt like 20. It was, every ride there basically was the same. You can have a long queue, but it just does not feel like it is. And they also extend the opening hours if it's busy, which, again, I'll touch on that in the Europa Park review, because this park's incredible. Yeah, we got a few rides on Voltron over the 2 days that we were there. For the first ride, being in that station, it was so exciting. You can see the trains moving, and the anticipation of what's going to happen. It's so good. Anyway, you finally get on the train. The lap bars come down automatically and check themselves, which is, if you've done Ride to Happiness, Plopsaland, it's the same system on that. I also need to do a review on that one. I wrote that before I did Voltron, by the way. That's how long I've just not been uploading. That's pretty bad there, isn't it? Anyway, you sit on the train, and then you're dispatched. You take a little left-hand turn, and then you enter the secret element. That the doors close on the left side of you, and the secret element is a bounce track, which I knew about it going in. I had it spoiled, but I didn't know it vibrates. It sort of lifts up. Spoiler warning, by the way, I probably should have said that before. But yeah, you lift up sort of halfway, and the train shakes. I don't know how they do this. I don't know if the the track shakes, which surely just ruins the wheels. I don't know if the train has some sort of vibrate thing in it, because Arthur does. But yeah, it's very cool. You then bounce once or twice, you lower down, and then you launch into the Beyond Vertical launch, which is easily one of the best launches on any coaster. The feeling of launching up beyond vertically is insane. I don't know how to describe it. I've used my reaction a few times, but I'll insert it now. Oh wow! Oh my god! Yeah, I was just blown away. It's so good. And then you flip underneath yourself, so you're upside down at this point. Great hang time. You then dive back down above the building into a little 0G roll sort of corkscrew thing. I've completely forgotten what it's like. It must be good. It's on Voltron. It's gonna be good. I think it's good if you're on the right side of the train, but I didn't go on the right wing seat. I was on the left wing seat most of the time, or on the right middle seat. Cool little element. You then hit a little bunny hill, which great airtime. It gives you a warning of what the ride's gonna be like. Sort of pushed up out of your seat. But the next few airtime hills that come after this are easily some of the best. But yeah, you then enter the, I don't know if it's is it the Immelman now, and then the non-inverting Immelman after that? They're both the same. I don't know why one's not inverting and one is. Technically it's got 8 inversions, not 7. But yeah, you enter one of them, you then enter the other one. Both very twisting elements. You get a nice little pop of airtime at the top of them. But overall, great little segment. And then you enter the block launch, as I think it's called, or something like that. It's a rolling launch where it's on like a little valley. But yeah, you hit the little launch, a little bit of kick to it, and then you enter one of the best elements on this ride, and that is the 0G stall. You are left dangling there for ages. Hyperia's stall is a little bit better in terms of, you know, being left dangling there. You then twist out of it, and then you enter the best airtime hill on any coaster. This thing, it's shaped so strangely. You enter it and it's very low down, but it's sort of like a parabolic shape, a bit like Shambhala's airtime hills. You go flying over this thing, especially if you're on the back row, which I was for my first ride. And yeah, it's so good. This is probably the best moment on the ride for me. This or another sort of airtime hill coming up later, which I'll explain in a minute. You then do a little S-bend, a twisted airtime hill into another dive loop. Another dive? There's only one. The first dive loop. But then you enter the brakes. Or so it seems. Because after this, you then enter the turntable, which reverses the ride's direction. You either go backwards or forwards, depending on what the train ahead of you did. It's a fun little game to play. If you're on it, you think, oh, are we going to go backwards or are we going to go forwards? I don't know. But yeah, you then lock into place and then you launch backwards, which I completely forgot it did this on my first ride. I don't know how. But my reaction is literally, I forgot it was backwards. Oh my god! Yeah, you launch backwards into a sort of junior, is it a junior scorpion tail? What it's called? It's the same thing that's on Mandra, basically. It's a sort of inverted spike. A little bit of hang time, a little bit of air time on that. Airtime or hang time, I don't really know what you would call it. You're out of your seat a little bit, and then you drop down and then to the same launch track again. This is easily one of the most powerful Mack launches, if not the most powerful Mack launch on any Mack, because as you enter it, you are sort of shot back, and then you launch up into the top hat. Great little bit of airtime at the top of this. It twists quite late, so as you're sort of at the top, you're still twisting. Very cool. You then dive down over the roof of the maintenance shed, I think, which actually, real quick, the turntable is also the transfer track for the maintenance shed. Cool bit of engineering there. But then after this top hat, you then enter another great airtime hill. You're falling more than you was rising. Does that make sense? I don't know. And then you enter another great moment of airtime, but it's not airtime. I don't know how to describe this. It's a sort of twisted outer bank where if you're on the right side of the train, again, I didn't get the right wing, you're sort of thrown over the top of yourself. Great bit of airtime. You then dive down, and this is the point where the G-force kills your neck because you are pushed into your seat, which then after that, you're then thrown up twice in a sort of double up airtime hill, which is very strange because one minute you're sort of pushed into your seat, the next minute you are launched out. This then leads you into the mid-course brake run. This ride's so long. But yeah, after this mid-course brake run is another moment of just unexpected goodness, which it's basically you dive off the brake run into a small little dip which just comes out of nowhere, and on the back row you fly over this thing. But yeah, after this you then enter a little sort of corkscrew 0G roll over the watchtower. You then dive around in a sort of helix, incredibly intense. This is probably the most intense part of the ride. It's also where it stalled the day before opening day. And then after this, you enter a little overbank, and then into another corkscrew, and then you get an airtime hill into the brakes. Is that the review finish? What have I got down on my my little notes that I put down. Anyway, thank you for watching this Voltron review. There'll be a Europa Park review, like I mentioned earlier, coming soon. Although, God forbid how long that will take to film. This has took me 30 minutes. Anyway.